Stevie Nicks was forced to spend the rest of her life lonely without the love she most sought after, all thanks to the kind of men she invited into her life. And in this video, we will be taking a quick account of all the men she dated, married, and hooked up with. Without much further ado, let's get started. Lindsay Buckingham. Stevie met Buckingham for the first time during her senior year at the Menlo Atherton High School in California. She was attracted by Buckingham's love for music, but it was going to be the same thing that would break them apart. Anyway, Lindsay created a spot for Nicks in his psychedelic rock band, Fritz. After high school, they decided to attend the same college, but they never made it to graduation day before they ditched school to pursue the life of their dreams. They got more purposeful about their music, and so would welcome stars like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. However, this partnership was not going to last, and right after their split, Stevie began a romantic relationship with Buckingham. "I'm not sure we would have even become a couple if it wasn't for us leaving that band. It kind of pulled us together," Nick shared. Together, they decided to start a new life in Los Angeles, and this decision would be the reason Stevie Nicks was denied her one true love. In Los Angeles, Stevie and Lindsay would release their first album, Buckingham Nicks, in 1973. The album was not the hit they had expected, and having invested so much into its production, the couple were almost left with nothing. Nicks was forced to wait tables so she could survive, and it was there that she finally met her big break. Buckingham got an invite from Fleetwood Mac to join them, but he told them that it was going to happen under one condition: they had to make room for Stevie too. That didn't seem like a bad idea at first, but it turned out to be the beginning of the downfall of Fleetwood Mac and Buckingham's relationship. Nicks and Lindsay joined Fleetwood Mac, and almost immediately they had the spotlight on them. They helped turn the band from British to Anglo-American. When Nicks and Buckingham tried to maintain a united front, behind the scenes, their relationship had grown sour. They knew that it was bad news for the band's image if they were to break up just 2 months after they were inducted, so they did all they could to keep this ship going. This was a bad idea, as Nicks grew to hate Buckingham even more, and in 1976, they called it quits just before the band would record their second album, Rumors. Lindsay was kicked out of the band not too long after their split, and he could smell Stevie's hand in it. According to him, she had given the band an ultimatum that either he had to go or she would. But Stevie denied all of these with the statement she published: "I did not demand that he be fired. Frankly, I fired myself. I proactively removed myself from the band and a situation I considered to be toxic to my well-being. I was done. If the band went on without me, so be it." To Buckingham, Nicks could say all she wanted. After all, she wasn't the one who just got fired, only to watch his ex hook up with his boss. Mick Fleetwood. They never meant for any of it to happen, but by the time they could restrain themselves, things would have gone haywire. At the end of this relationship, Stevie described it as both fantastic and horrifying. She had fallen in love with her bandmate, Mick Fleetwood. As to whether all of this was happening when she was still together with Buckingham, no one can tell. But all we know is that their romance became public as soon as Lindsay was kicked out of the band. Misery loves company, and that was the explanation we were sold as a reason for this mysterious romance. Mick at that time was nursing a heartache from getting back with his wife whom he had divorced a year prior. And Stevie, as much as she tried to hide it, separation from Lindsay had pricked her heart, and she was going to find comfort in the arms of Fleetwood. Relationship with Mick, among other things, did 2 major damages to Stevie. 1, it made her a helpless drug addict, and 2, she hurt the people she cared about. According to Stevie, they were told that drugs were recreational, and being with Mick Fleetwood, it was hard not to be influenced. She became so dependent on drugs that her doctor would warn her that if she didn't stop, there was a big chance that she would drop dead on the stage during her 1986 Australia tour. In the end, Stevie sought help in rehab centers, but finally, it was a visit to a psychiatrist that would save her life. She even confessed that she was under the influence of drugs when she had that affair with Mick. "Mick and I would never have had an affair had we not had a party and all been completely drunk and messed up. And ended up being the last 2 people at the party," she said. However, according to her, it didn't take them long to realize what they had done, and they vowed that it must not happen again. Did it? Well, they are the only ones who can tell us at this point, but Stevie did not look so happy when Fleetwood started dating her best friend, Sarah Recker. But the singer did express remorse over what had happened between her and her boss, who had just been reunited with his family. Everyone was angry because Mick was married to a wonderful girl and had 2 wonderful children. "I was horrified. I love these people. I loved his family," Nicks said. So ultimately, you could say that their relationship ended because of the guilt they felt and that they were afraid that continuing would be the end of Fleetwood Mac. Don Henley. You could even go as far as calling this Stevie's happiest relationship. And although the tides of their industry would later separate them, they both celebrated being able to share this love. Just after her forbidden relationship with Mick Fleetwood, Nix started another relationship with Eagles drummer and co-vocalist Don Henley. Years after this relationship, Nix has granted many interviews where she shared a few insights of their romance. According to her, she was forced to have an abortion for the drummer when they were lovers. Now, Henley wanted her to have the baby. Rumors even tell that he debated marrying her at some point, but Stevie was uninterested. She has always made it clear that all of her was her career, and she had no intention of becoming a wife because of the demands of her profession. My mission maybe wasn't to be a mom and a wife, Nix told ABC Downtown in 2001. Maybe my particular mission was to write songs to make moms and wives feel better, Stevie Nicks. Although she believed that it was the best move for her career at the time, Nix was still hurt when she aborted her baby. In an interview with Billboard in 2014, the American singer confessed that Fleetwood Mac's 1979 hit song Sarah was inspired by her pregnancy and her brief romance with Mick Fleetwood. Had I married Dawn and had that baby, and had she been a girl, I would have named her Sarah, she said. But there was another woman in my life named Sarah, who shortly after that became Mick's wife, Sarah Fleetwood. Don Henley was the ideal man for Nix, and despite having all praises for him when their relationship was over, Nix would reveal a dirty habit she picked up from the drummer. Don had almost made her go bankrupt after influencing her to a lavish lifestyle. According to her, the Eagles flexed Lear jets and presidential suites long before they did, and dating Henley would feed that appetite until she could no longer control it. Once you learn to live life like that, there's no going back. It's like, get me a Lear jet. I need to go to LA. I don't care if it costs $15,000. I need to go now, she said. Anyway, they continued to stay friends after their split, and Henley joined Stevie on the song Leather and Lace from her debut solo album Belladonna, released in 1981. Jimmy Lovine. They first met in the studio for her solo album Belladonna, and 10 days later they were sharing the same roof. Jimmy Lovine's talent brought him to Nick's dating list after she found out that he was the producer behind Tom Petty's sounds, and that was what she wanted for her album. When they became lovers, they would hide their relationship from Tom Petty. According to Stevie, whenever Petty visited the studio, she hid in Jimmy's basement. They deceived him as they didn't want to ruin the professional relationship that existed between him and Nix. Although Stevie acknowledges Jimmy for being so instrumental in her album's success, their relationship ended because of a suggestion he made about a song from the album. According to Nix, Lovine insisted that she record the Warren Zevon song Reconsider Me. She hated the idea, and they got into a big fight afterwards. The American singer explained that some of the lyrics from the song irritated her, and that Jimmy acted like it was the most important song for her album, making her hate it even more. I would never say the words, reconsider me, to somebody. I would never ask somebody to reconsider loving me, she confessed. Well, he thought that it was the biggest bunch of crap he'd ever hear, so we had a big fight about it, and that's just about the last time Jimmy and I ever worked together. Although she recognized his input in the album's success during her 2018 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction speech, we doubt that they have ever spoken to each other ever since. Kim Anderson. Grief has been a terrible influence in Stevie Nicks' love life, and this time it would play its strongest cards on her, causing her to make mistakes she would spend most of her life regretting. With Kim Anderson, it was a tragic story of how Nicks married her best friend's husband. Nicks and Robin Anderson have been friends right from her teenage days. They explored music together and shared so many other beautiful moments. According to Stevie, she was the only one who knew her beyond the famous Stevie Nicks who everyone saw. So her death broke her heart and forced her to make a terrible mistake. Robin died a tragic death from leukemia, and to make matters worse, she was 6 months pregnant at the time of her death. So her baby was removed 3 months premature, and she died 2 days later. According to Stevie, this automatically had her in an awful position where she felt this sudden responsibility to Robin's husband Kim and their baby. So she married him in an attempt to become a surrogate mother to Matthew. 3 months into the marriage, and they realized they'd made a terrible mistake. We didn't get married because we were in love. We got married because we were grieving, and that was the only way we could feel like we were doing anything, she explained. Interestingly, her marriage to Kim was going to be the only marriage in her lifetime, and after they divorced 3 months later, she severed all ties and has not spoken to him or his son Matthew ever since. But that doesn't mean that she has lost all sense of responsibility towards them, especially to Matthew. As she explained, she understands that she is next to his mother, and she is ever ready to share all she had of Robin with him. I have all of his mother's things, and I have her life on film for 14, 15 years. I have a tape of us singing. I have a beautiful book that I wrote the year she died. I have a room full of stuff for him. I have his mother to give back to him when he's ready, Nix explained. That day eventually came, according to The Telegraph in 2015, and she would sponsor Matthew through college and has continued to play the mother figure in his life ever since. What about Kim? Well, Nix hates the memories he brought, and so has continued to stay as far as possible from him ever since. Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh was going to be the last on Stevie Nicks' long list of lovers, and for her last, Nix was going to fall really hard. Probably why she has not recovered ever since. They met for the first time at the Mansion Hotel in Dallas, Texas, and according to Nix, she never believed in love at first sight until she met the Eagles guitarist. Their love story was an enchanting one, with Stevie describing him as the greatest love of her life. So why did it end? The same reason she would break up with Mick Fleetwood: drugs. Nix confessed that drugs got the better part of their relationship, with each of them transforming into heavy cocaine addicts whenever they were together. So, Walsh, in fear that one of them was going to die because of their severe addiction, would break up with her. This left a permanent hole in Nix's heart as she confessed that she was never going to get over it because, to her, there was no other man in the world for her. Stevie Nicks, now 75 years old, still hasn't fully given up on love. She sits back in old age, hoping that love will give her the compensation she deserves. If you like this video, be sure to check out our other videos of beautiful actresses from the yesteryears.